So here is Surya Namaskar A. To get a nice overview, I'm going to cue the inhalation as Carolina does the movement. So inhale, rise the arms. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward dog. We'll hold this for 5 breaths. And then inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise arms up. And exhale, Samasthiti. Great. So now we'll break down each one of these asanas. So we talked about Samasthiti. Samasthiti means a balanced, harmonious pose and to come back to oneself. So at the end of each and every movement that we do, we come back to Samasthiti while we're standing. And so when you come back to Samasthiti, feel that completely balanced, harmonious posture and come back to the breath as well. So go ahead and inhale, rise the arms. So here, if the tendency is to arch the low back, then we'll see it here as well. And so continue to keep the navel engaged and the stacking that we had from the center of the hips, knees, and ankles. Exhale, forward fold. So here in the forward fold, you'll look for that the hips are directly over the ankles and the spine is relaxed. We'll break down more about the forward fold when we get to Padangusthasana and Padahastasana. So for now, modification can be bent knees and just hanging down forward or using a block with the hands on a block. Okay. Inhale, halfway lift. So here in Ashtanga, there is a tendency to extend the back of the neck and look forward. And that's okay on someone with a very healthy neck, but for purposes of yoga therapy, we'll keep the neck in line with the spine. So you have a nice straight line from the center of the hips all the way to the center of the crown of the head, and the drishti, the eyes, can gaze forward. So exhale, Chaturanga. You're going to place the hands on the mat and either step back and lower down to Chaturanga or jump back straight into Chaturanga. Okay, rest for a moment. So let's break down this process. So we'll inhale, first we'll do the modification. So from the inhale, we'll step back to plank. So here's Carolina's plank. Great. And so again, in plank, you want to make sure that we start with the foundation. So you're going to look at Hasta Bandha in the hands. The index finger points forward, and everybody's body is a little bit different. So there may be some rotation where the middle finger points forward, depending on how it feels for your wrists. Fingers are spread wide. You're pressing into the base of the index finger, the base of the thumb, and the base of the pinky, so that there's this nice suction in the very center of the palm. Sometimes it helps to bend that index finger to really press that point into the mat. The eyes of the elbows are forward, press into my fingers, so you're broadening the shoulder blades, external shoulder rotation, and of course, straight line down to the heels. Go ahead and lower the knees to the mat. So we'll start with modified Chaturanga. So here's the modified plank pose. And so when you're doing this, you may add an extra breath. So you may exhale, step back to plank. Inhale, exhale, lower the knees, and then lower into your modified Chaturanga. So she begins to lower her modified Chaturanga. Elbows are gonna come back, and she's gonna stop her chest right here where the elbows are. And again, there's this external shoulder rotation, push into my fingers, and then release, lie all the way down on the mat. So for the modified vinyasa, we have this modified Chaturanga, and then we can offer a modification for the back bend. So in this case, we'll use baby cobra. Inhale, rise the chest, hands stay underneath the shoulders, elbows stay tucked in, and the chest is shining forward. The heart is shining forward. The hands are gripping the mat and pulling the mat back so as to pull the chest forward even more. The glutes are relaxed and the strength is in the muscles of the spine. Toenails are pressing into the mat. Exhale, we'll press through hands and knees and then into downward facing dog. So for now, just into child pose. So this is one modified variation of the vinyasa that you can use. So just to recap, from plank, lower the knees, toenails on the mat, lower the chest to meet the elbows, and there will be a hovering. So as you exhale, pause here before lowering all the way down. Then inhale, rise for baby cobra. One other option here is from plank, you can lower one elbow down, then the other. So we're in a forearm plank, and then release the belly down and let the back bend be a sphinx pose. So it's just a variation that you can use depending on the strength of your students. Ideally, we want to be working with the modified Chaturanga to prepare them for the full Chaturanga later on. And so if you have a student who is struggling with the full Chaturanga, if there's any shaking or visible tension in the face, it's better that they work with the modified variation of the Chaturanga, because that's going to build their strength much faster than doing a sort of a sloppy Chaturanga. And so let's take a look then at the full vinyasa with the full Chaturanga. So again, an option is to step back into plank or jump all the way and lower down into the Chaturanga. Let's start from plank. Yeah, let's start from plank. Okay, so remember never to jump to plank. If you're going to jump into Chaturanga, always absorb all the way down. Okay, so as Carolina starts to lower down into her Chaturanga, she's exhaling and she's going to pause again with the side bodies right here at the elbows. She's shifting forward as she lowers, and then inhale forward and up for upward facing dog. Great. So the thighs never touch the mat. There's a nice space here as the head comes forward and then up into upward dog. Here again, you have the same thing with the Hasta Bandha, pressing the index finger into the mat, shoulders back, chest shining forward, head is in line with the spine here. And then from your upward facing dog to get into the downward dog, first thing is you're going to drop your chin, bring your belly to your spine, and then lift the hips into downward facing dog. So bringing the chin down first and then drawing belly to spine is going to activate the abdominal, activate the cores in a much stronger way than just shifting back. Go ahead to child pose. So something I just want to point out with the Chaturanga. Some teachers will cue shifting forward first. And this may be okay if you have very strong, very flexible wrists. But notice what happens, my wrists are now hyperextended in this scenario. So ideally, what you'll want to do, what you'll want your student to do, is as you're lowering into Chaturanga, you're shifting over to the tops of the toes as you're lowering down, so that when you're here, you have that nice 90-degree angle at the elbows. Okay, notice that I'm hovering, my thighs never touch, my belly never touches. Hovering here, and then to get into the upward facing dog, you continue rotating over the toes, forward, and then lifting up for the upward facing dog. Now, let's go over if someone is having trouble knowing how much to lower down, and if they're dropping their belly first rather than lowering right down in the plank position. So, one tool we can use is the blocks. So you'll place one block where the chest would be and one block where the hips would be. And so you'll see as Carolina lowers into Chaturanga, the blocks will stop her right where she needs to be. And notice that the elbow is here. And you may even ask the student to see if they can hover, lifting up above the blocks before they go ahead and dump all their weight. And then this will give you a really good idea this will give you a good idea as to whether they are ready to do the full chaturanga or not.